بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah, I'll talk about the topic of Islamic will and why is it important. But before that, allow me for 5 minutes just to give you a little bit of introduction about who I am and who's Basira, and then we dive deeper, inshallah, into the topic. So Basira is a charity foundation founded in almost a year and a half ago in Canada. We focus more on serving the Muslim communities through tech, right? So we try to do free Islamic resources that makes the life of Muslims easy, and by using technology, right? We focus on sustainability, efficiency, and technology. So we are very low when it comes to budgeting. We try to do the things as efficient as possible. So we keep our fees low, or our cost low, and we have zero admin fee. Alhamdulillah, all of the admin stuff comes from a different pool that donors donate specifically for that. You can read more about it in basira.ca. A little bit about me. My name is Muhammad Hassan. I'm one of the founders of Basira. I'll just tell you a little bit. Let me give you just two examples of some of the projects we have inside Basira. One of them is the Alexa skills. So the Alexa skills, we have 4 Alexa skills. The Quran radio. That's if you have the Alexa device, you can say it, Alexa, start Quran radio, or start Quran station, and it will start our radio station. It's a continuous Quran without any ads or without anything. We have also memorized Quran. If you have a kid in your home, you can play it, or like even schedule it to play in specific times. And what it will do is it will you can decide which surah you want or which part of juz you want, but it will just keep repeating the same surah again and again with kids in the background as well, with the sheikh reading. And even if your kid is playing and hearing it in the background, after some time they will actually pick it up and it will be familiar for them. So and we're talking about 2 or 1 year olds. So when they start actually memorizing the Quran, it will not be foreign to them. It will be much easier. And we have personal experiences from people who reach out to us about how efficient it is. The third one is Islamic supplications. If you want to have like Islamic dua said in your house and stuff, this is the scale to use. And then we have English Quran, which is just listen to the Quran in English audio. Alhamdulillah, we have many users. I'll skip for now just to focus on the topic. The second app as well is called Mantuq. It's a audiobook app. Right now we have it only in Arabic. Alhamdulillah, we have more than 70,000 monthly active users. It has more than 1,400 Islamic and beneficial books in the app that lots of users are using, alhamdulillah, and listening and using their time efficiently this way. So it's just an app that's completely free, no ads, nothing, and it's dedicated for audiobooks that are useful and boost your iman and boost your knowledge. These are some of the numbers. Now let's go to freeislamicwill.ca. So I will start by talking about why make a will. And when I ask this question, I will ask it in general. I'm not talking about Canada. Like, let's assume you're living in Saudi or living in Egypt or living in a Muslim country that rules by the Sharia law when it comes to inheritance. Why do you still need to write a will, right? There is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that anyone who has something that should be written a will at, he has to write a will in 2 days. So if you have something that you should write a will for, you have 2 days until you must write a will. That's an Islamic ruling. And the reason for that is because this is how we make sure that if there is a debt, if there's something important, if something that looks like your money, but it's not actually your money and nobody else knows it, that is very dangerous, because if you die, the money transfer right away. I'm talking about in Muslim countries, the money transfer right away to your inheritance, and your inheritors have no idea that this guy have, for example, some money in that he gave you, right? So that's why this is one aspect that's very important in writing a will. And a will here doesn't have to be, or what the Prophet ﷺ is talking about here, it doesn't have to be the will that we are going to talk about, but it has to have something with like something in writing that tells people what should be done, right? Things that you only know, per se. The second thing is to use the third of your will, of your of the inheritance, right? So when someone dies, they control what should happen in third of their money, and depending on how much they left, this third could be either a lot or a little, but lots of good could happen with it. You can do, for example, sadaqah jariyah, you can build a masjid, you can build a well, you can maybe do it even like orphanage, whatever you want, right? And the third thing we talked about already is debts. So this is when you're living in a Muslim country, right? If you're not living in a Muslim country, all what we discussed above applies and much, much more. The reason for that is, I'm going to focus on Canada. When you die, or like when someone dies, if they have a significant others, they call it, or like basically a spouse or even a common law, all their money goes to them by default, right? So if they don't have any inheritance, have nothing, all the money will go to your wife, and vice versa. If the wife dies, all the money goes to the husband. Now, that is right there is haram in Islam, right? Now, if the woman is alhamdulillah like obeys to Sharia and stuff, then she distributes it, that's good. But just the fact that all the money will go to one person, this is again is the Sharia law, right? However, if the woman, like if there's an agreement that this will, like the woman will distribute it, I don't know, this has to be asked about to a sheikh, but this is what happens in Canada. This is the first problem. Second problem is, let's assume both of parents died at the same time. Then you have a much complicated situation here, right? So if one of the parents died and the other parent, or like one of the spouses died and the other spouse is like a good Muslim and stuff like that, usually you don't see problems. But if one of two of them died at the same time, then this is a huge issue, because what happens then is the money goes basically to the government, not directly to the government, but the government controls where it goes. It has to go through courts. Like even if inheritance comes, for example, if they're overseas already, they have to come to Canada, they have to apply in court. It's not as smooth of a ride as if it's just a spouse. The second problem, which I believe is much more complicated, is the kids, because when one of the spouses or one of the parents dies, the kids go to the other parent. But if both parents die, it does not go to their family directly. It's kind of like owned, like the kids owned by the government or by the government, and the court has to decide where the kids will go. They don't have to go to your grandmother. They don't have to go to your niece, right? Like the court will definitely try, in Canada at least, to do that. But until the court decides, the kids will be in orphanage unless there is a will that specify a guardian, which in this case the kids will go to the guardian until the court decides. So for example, let's assume you don't have any family in Canada, and you don't know, like for example, if both parents die, what should happen to the kids. You can write it to go to one of your friends, and then when your family comes here, then the friend will give it to your family, right? So this is the best way to do it. And inshallah, we will talk more about it when we actually go through the website. Like I'll tell you why each of these sections are important and stuff. The third question I want to answer is like, how easy is it to write a will in Canada? Actually, writing a will in Canada is very, 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 very easy. You can literally cut a piece of paper and write your will, and this is your will, period. It's as easy as that. You don't need a witness, you don't need anything if you're writing it with your hands. If you're writing with a computer, it gets a little bit more complicated, because you then need a witness, like 2 witnesses. You need, it depends on where you are. You might need extra people to be there, per se, like for example, notary or things like that. But in general, even with computer, 2 witnesses usually is enough. You don't need more than that. And of course, even with the handwritten, having a witness also is good. But as far as I remember, it's not mandatory. So in general, in Canada, writing a will is very easy. It gets a little bit. Yeah, I'll answer more questions later. Like, for example, one of the questions could be answered is, can someone challenge my will in court? And the answer to that, I'll answer it later so that we don't complicate it too much at once, inshallah. So let's give you a demo now, inshallah, about how to use the website. But before I even say that, like, I'll tell you why is it good to use freeislamicwill.ca, right? Like, why don't you use just write it yourself or go to other places? You definitely can, but one thing we try to do is that the will is very generic, that you do not need to rewrite it again, right? You write it once and that's it. It has everything it needs to be there. And I will show you now why. So let me just close this and bring this here. Can you see? Yes. Okay. So before I go to create will, I want to show you a sample will just so that you have an idea about what we are talking about. Okay. So should I make it bigger? Yeah, let me try to make it bigger. Okay. So as you can see here, the beginning of it is just basically grace to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's nothing really legal in there. It's the legal stuff starts from here, right? The funeral and burial rights. You say basically that you care about my funerals being done Islamically, and then you specify an executor. And let me take this chance to kind of like identify some important words. In the will, there are three important, the most important that we're all gonna kind of like interact with, three important keywords that you have to remember: executor, guardian, and a third one that I forgot. Let's start with the executor. So the executor is the one that is gonna execute your will. He has to know where's the will. So when you die, he can go and actually get that will and start executing it. Now, that person should be in the city that you're dying, like that you most likely gonna die in, basically like the city of residence. Even if you didn't die in your city of residence, the city where you're most of your money in, per se, or like most of your family and stuff like that, because otherwise he has to travel or she has to travel. And second is, do not make that person your spouse unless you know that your spouse is able to handle the pressure, right? Remember, if you die before your spouse, they will have to deal with a lot of emotions. They will have to deal with the kids. They will have to deal with all of that, and then they are also the executor. That might be a little bit too much. So it might be a better idea to put someone else as the executor. And we also allow here for a backup executor. So if the first executor is not there for whatever reason, the backup executor can do the job. So this is the first thing that's important. And here again, you're saying basically what you want the executor to do, all of that about your grave, and all of that. The second important one is the guardian, right? Who is gonna be the guardian of your kids after you die? If you die and your spouse is there, the spouse is the guardian. Even if you are in your will say the guardian should be X, it doesn't matter. Like if the other parents are there, it moves directly to them. Unless you went to court and you got full custody, then this is different. But we're talking about parents who are actually like married to each other. One of the parents died, it goes to the second parent. Here, most likely in normal situations, the guardian will go, we're talking about it, if both parents died, where it should go. And as we discussed before, this is very, very important. It should be someone you trust, should be someone like close, or at least can come very close. If something tragic happened, they should be available like very quickly to be able to take the kids. So that to avoid things like making the kids go to a shelter and stuff. Now the debts and expenses, Here, where we kept it very generic, saying all my debts should be taken out of my will, and the expenses should be paid from my will as well, right? So here we're making it very simple so that you don't have to update. You don't have to come here and change every time you have debt with something, but you should do the due diligence in general, or like the good hygiene of writing a debt somewhere, right? Like, so you write it in a different paper and you have like witnesses and stuff. And then if that is there, then this will includes it already, right? And as you see so far, like there's no need really for you to update so far, right? Because we didn't mention the name of your kids. We didn't mention the name of anything that actually updates. The only thing that updates so far is the name of the executor, the name of the backup executor, the name of the guardian, the name of the backup guardian. So unless all, like both, for example, the main and the backup are all moved out or something like that, you don't actually need to update your will. Okay. The third thing that's important here is the charitable contribution, right? You have a 30% in Islam and Sharia law that you can give away to any organization you want, or to any charitable cause you want, right? And you can make it here generic or specific. So you can say, oh, I want it to this charity specific name, or you can even give it to an individual if you want to. You have the right to give it to an individual as long as that individual is not one of the inheritance. So you cannot, for example, give your daughter more money so that it becomes equal to her brother. That's not allowed in Islam. You can give someone who did not have inheritance at all, then you can give them, yes, even if they are a relative. And of course, here we will not know. You can actually write it, but I'm telling you about the Sharia law. Here, the backup charity, this is just as like if one of the people here was unable to take it, for example, here the individual died that you put, or charity closed or whatever, this is just a backup charity that if for whatever reason that the executor was not able to execute it, it will fall back to the backup charity. And then distribution of the remainder of the estate. This is the beauty of this will, right? You can see here, it's mentioned in much detail. Basically, this section here is talking about some generic rules, and it's actually telling the executor to go and execute the will as per this schedule here. So this schedule is talking about cases. So if the executor, so when the executor gets the case, he will see which situation applies to you and just execute the will as per the Sharia law. For example, if you have one son or more, and and any number of daughters, this is what should happen, right? If you don't have any other relatives, that's what's going to happen. If you have a wife, this is what's going to happen. The wife will have an eighth, the rest will go to the kids, or the rest will go to this here, 1.8. If you have a husband, this is what's going to happen, right? So this is the beauty of this Islamic will, because it's generic. It does not matter if you have more kids. It does not matter if you have what they call it, like more money. All of this is very generic. It maintains the minimum so that when someone dies, things will be distributed. In Islamic Sharia law, you will have a guardian, you will have an executor, and things should be smooth. And you have even like section for a charitable contribution, right? So let's go here and see how can we start this.
Hey, Mohammed,
Okay.
can you
Yes.
zoom in a little bit?
You want to pause?
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Oh yeah. Okay, I thought we can pause if you want to take questions. Otherwise, I can continue.
Yeah, actually, there's one question in the chat box. Anas asks, can there be one will for the entire family, or does it need to be individually written?
It's better to be individually written. I don't know, like from a Sharia perspective, definitely it should be individual. I don't know about the Canadian law in this aspect. Is it allowed for spouses, both of them, to have kind of like one common law? I did know. I think my understanding is it's individual. It should be each one should have one. Any other questions? Should I continue?
Yeah, there's a question from Harry. How do you handle joint properties?
Joint properties will be handled as as any other share. Like assume you have a company, like shares in a company, same thing. You just own that shares. So the executor will have the job here to see what is the best to do and who should take what per se, right? So what happens is it will be evaluated how much your share cost, and it will be distributed normally. Sometimes it might be better, for example, for all the share to go to one person. So it will be just discussed among the family members to see who should be taking what. And if they disagree, there is always the court, right? The court is there if there's disagreement. But if they all the inheritance are okay and they're just like kind of like agreeing about what happens, it should be fine. That's it, Jazreen. Should I continue?
Yeah, let's
Hello,
continue.
hello, Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad.
Alaikum
Thank you
salam.
very much for all your wisdom. This is truly helping a lot. I just have a general question, especially the people, the community over here. We all are like first generation immigrants. That means like all of our parents and relatives are in India, like husband and wife and kids only in Canada. So if I execute this Islamic will and if I die today or tomorrow, certain portion, right? 1/6 or something will go to my parents.
Yeah.
So how will they going to claim that money being in different country? So
The executor should be able, like the executor will have the job to move the money to them. So that's why it's very important to choose a wise executor, right? So an executor who can, for example, like communicate with your parents, see what they want. Do they want the states to stay as it is? Should they sell it and then give them the money back in India or Pakistan or whatever? You know what I mean? So or Egypt, like it depends on the executor and how they discuss with the family member.
So in if the survived person doesn't have kids, then usually that goes to multiple people in the multiple family members, right? Brothers, mother, father,
Correct.
and yes, then it'll be like my general question is like then that will make things more complicated, right? Usually like then everything will go to estate and that process will be quite complicated. I don't know what is the legal formalities for the people who lives in other countries to claim that money from Canada. So my question is, can we have something written in our will, like I know it may not be a Islamic way. For example, if something happened to me, I can have my rights to my wife, and I have another agreement written with my wife to give whatever rights for Islamic Sharia to my family members.
Yeah, I know many people who do that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, one follow-up question on that. Is that equivalent to making your spouse as the executor? Probably no.
So in general, my understanding is that the executor has some powers. They have the ability to sell property, as long as they are acting in the best interest of the inheritee. So I think it might be equal, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the details. There might be like a specific case that's not exactly equal.
Gotcha. Okay. Harry has another question. Does the will cover all the properties you hold, even if they are in different countries? Or is this only applicable to properties in Canada?
That is a good question. Are you talking about the Islamic will or the Canadian will? If you're talking about the Canadian will,
I think he's talking about the will that this website produces,
it covers everything. This specific will, it covers everything, but you have the ability and the executor has the ability to kind of like quote unquote shield whatever outside and do it in the outside law. For example, if you have property in India, and you have the ability to do it the Sharia law, you can just do your own thing there. But you might need like a death, what they call it, certificate or something, to get the things rolling in the country there.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, because remember, like, Canada does not have power over any other state per se, right? So while all the money you have in Canada will be, like, the executor will have access to and does the will and everything, the same process has to be followed every other place that you have a stake in or money in, right? The executor has to contact the authorities to give him access or her access to that property.
Right, yeah.
And follow whatever rules there.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. This is Harry. Thank you for responding to my question. So that was my follow-up question. Thank you for answering that too. So does that mean, because this is just a follow-up to Nurshi's question, most of us are first-generation immigrants who recently moved to Canada. So most of us will have a situation where you own properties both in Canada as well as back in India, right? In such a case, do I have to execute, let's say, two sets of wills, where one will is for Canadian property, another will for India? Or if I execute a will here, will the Indian government accept that will for the properties that is based in India?
I see what you mean. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, maybe we can check with our lawyer and get back, I guess. But if I can assume, I think this will produces a document that the executor has the power to do, right? So now it's up to the executor to go to India and divvy up however the will actually says. You know, so this will document is a very generic document, if that makes sense.
So I did just a quick search online, and they say yes, in general, the Indian government does respect Canadian will.
Cool. There's another question. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah from Riyaz. Sorry if this was addressed previously, but I want to check what happens if the executor dies prior to us, or alive but not in a good mental condition. I guess we need to modify the will again, correct? Yeah.
This is correct, but that's why we have a backup, right? So when you're doing the will, we ask you to add the one executor and a backup executor. If both of them are incapable before you die, yes, you should update your will so that you put different people. And same for guardian as well.
Actually, yeah, let's jump into the demo. I think.
Okay.
Ask the question. I think most of the question might be answered in the demo. So.
Yeah, okay. So when you start, we ask you to write your personal information. We currently support 3 provinces in Canada: Alberta, British Columbia, and Ontario. So it's choose, for example, British Columbia. And name, you can put your name, you can put your full address, and you can put email address. I'm just putting them here like this to make it easier. Full address, last name, and this is my email. The email address, we just the only thing we store in here is just the email address. We do not store any of this information. All of this information actually is used so that it fills the PDF. That's all of that produced locally. So if you literally cut the internet, I'm not gonna cut it because then I'll lose you. But if you cut the internet, you can actually still produce your will. Everything will work fine. The only thing that's not going to work is that we're not going to get your email. And the reason we store your email is just in case there's a change, there's anything, we can send you an email to update you. But that's about it, really. So it's fully secure in that aspect. That nothing really leaves your computer. And if you notice here, if I go next, there is already some things filled. That is from my previous session, and the reason for that is because we store it locally as well. So on your browser, we store this information for you, so that when you continue, because I didn't submit, when you come back, you find the information. But if I submit it, then it will delete it from the browser and ask me if I want to download the backup JSON file. So if next time I can continue. So this is just the technical aspect. So let's continue with the with it. So
sorry,
yes, Jesse.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to use like real names so that when the will comes out, it looks real?
Yeah, sure. So yeah. Okay. Next. Okay. So the main executor. The main executor, as we said, the name must match the ID or any kind of like identifier they will have, and you should mention their address. Even if they change the address, it's fine. You don't need to update it. But this address is used so that they at least lived at one point. They held a government identity with that address. That should be good enough. So let's call him, for example, let's put Jazreen as my executor. And let's put 13 Jazz Street in Burnaby. Okay. Backup executor, same thing. It's optional. You don't need to add it. I will skip it for now. One thing you should check for sure is this section here, right? So it answers who's the executor, who can be an executor. So, for example, the executor has to be older than 18, should be honest, capable, and fully understand the importance of doing things according to Islamic law. It's highly recommended to have a backup executor. It's highly recommended that the executor is a practicing Muslim. Death is a difficult time. Choosing executor, this is what we said about this, using your spouse's executor. It's highly recommended that the executor is in the city you live in. Your spouse or kid can be an executor. General points, it's recommended to inform the executor where you put the will, and it's important for the executor to be up to date with your financial, or at least knows how to reach it, right? So if, for example, you can maybe share with the executor some sort of a document, Excel sheet or something about some general where your money at least, right? It doesn't have to be the exact numbers. It can be, for example, I have money in TD Bank, I have money in like a Quistrade, they have, you know what I mean? Like, where are you keeping your money? So it's easy for them, or like, where's your properties? So it's easy for them to kind of like collect them after. So this is just an advice. And then we click next, and then we come to the guardian. So we put the guardian. The guardian can be the executor, right? So let's assume I will put someone called Muhammad Shahad. He's another of my friends. He lives in 3 Cool Street in Burnaby too. The backup here, backup guardian, is it optional as well or no? I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, it's optional. So yeah, you can choose to put a backup or not. Guardian, and again, this section is very important. Who's the guardian? Is it necessary to name a guardian if my spouse is alive? How to choose a guardian? The answer is, of course, yes. How to choose a guardian? Some points here, and some general points. I think we already mentioned all of them. So we click next. After that, we talk about the charitable organization. You can choose this as a charity or as individual. If you choose as a charity, it gives you the ability to choose a charity, to put a charity number. This is just for accuracy. You don't need to add it. This is kind of like the CRA charity number, but some charities do not have it if they are just not for profit. So you can write here, for example, Islamic Relief, and charity address is also optional. The purpose, you can say, for example, orphans or whatever you want, or like, and building wells. Enter percentage. The percentage should not be more than 33, right? So if you put 34 or whatever, it should not accept, but just make sure it's not more than 33 in total. So, right, so if you had another charity or individual, you put this individual, for example, named Omar Hassan, who's like assume my uncle who's not gonna actually be one of the people who's gonna inherit. I'm gonna give him also 12%. So that amounts to 24, so we're still good. The address as well, it's okay. You don't need to add it, but it's better to add it. So let's assume he lives in 13 Uncle Street, also in Burnaby. Okay. And then again, this section is talking about some of the aspect, like, oh, here's like how to find the charity number. You can go to this website here and search for the charity you want, and it will show you like if you write the name of the charity and search, it should show you. It's a bit slow. I'll come back to it when it's done. What to put in the purpose, just like you can put whatever you really want. All right, like for example, so that the charity knows what to do with the money per se. Backup beneficiary charity. So the idea here is that in case there is, at the end of the day, after all of that, some money left for whatever reason, we usually this never happen, but sometimes it does. In rare circumstances, this backup charity, you put a name so that the money does not just fly nowhere. It goes to at least some good cause. That's the idea here of this. But in an ideal situation, this should never happen. So you just write the name of any charity you want. As you can see, you don't even put a percentage because it shouldn't be happening anyways, but just as a backup. The only thing required here is just the name. Otherwise, it's all optional. You can put a purpose, a specific purpose of what you want. Oh yeah, I didn't put it. Okay, let's see what we put Basira. Here. Okay. And then we go next. Okay, now this is confirming the details. It will show me, okay, this is your personal information you entered. These are the executors you chose. Look here, the optional, you didn't choose anyone. The guardian, same thing, but they didn't choose any backup guardian. Charitable contribution, this is what you chose. This is the charity name. You give them 12% in building wells and orphans. Individual named Omar Hassan, you give him 12%. The backup beneficiary, this is the beneficiary, and then you click submit. When you click submit, you're shown this. Your will is almost ready. Click download instructions. So here, these instructions are very important, and I will show you why. So once you download the instructions, download your will appear after. So you download the will too, and then we here ask you if you would like to donate. Please do so. So that we can continue developing the website, adding more provinces, and in general support our other charity projects. So let's talk to the instructions and see the will as well. Here's the instruction, here's the will. So notice here that you got the instructions for BC, and the reason for that is because you said here that you live in BC, right? And also it says here you should download your backup information. So be careful of that. Like after you download the will, you can download the backup information. It's going to be a JSON that if you want to edit later at all, you can just add that to the website, and the website will make you edit rather than start from the beginning. So let's continue. So the instructions is specific for BC because every province is slightly different. There is not much a huge difference. So in BC, you have two option, right? So you can either do it without a notary public, you can do it with a notary public. If you do it without a notary public, in BC, it's not required to have a notary public notarizing your will, but it's considered better to do so. All you need are two witnesses that you sign in presence of either in the same room or observing via video, right? So BC is the only state or the only province in Canada that allows for the witnesses not to be physically with you when you are signing, right? So you can use that flexibility here, and we're telling you how to do either like digital signature and with signature. So the digital signature, you will see prior to December 1st, 2021, a will was only considered valid if it's printed, but after that, they changed the law. So if you want to do it, do the following. Go in a video call with the 2 witnesses. So of course, you will basically have this in there. And inshallah, we will look at it in a bit. So you will go in a video call with the 2 witnesses. You share your screen and digitally sign the will so everyone sees. You will have to also initialize every page of the document. So what you're going to do is you initialize every page. I don't know if this allows it or not. I can try here. For example, you say, okay, M Hassan, and then here, and you can actually put it here, M Hassan, M Hassan. Right, so you do this until you reach the end where it's here, and then you actually write your legal name here, Muhammad Hassan. Sorry, I don't have my pad with me, that's why it's really bad. And then your Muslim name here, if it's different. And then you sign here. And you write the number of pages of this document and how many copies you made. And 1 copy is like if you want to have the original with you, and 1 copy you write the name of the person here. And if you like, we usually prefer to have 2 copies. So you write the name of the first person who give the copy, the second name of the person who give the copy. And here, if you have a notary, they should sign here, but it's not required. And you can sign everywhere here, really. We have a part for signature everywhere, or you can like I prefer if you can sign and do both initialize. It's not gonna harm anybody, but like one signing is enough. So once they see you do that, sharing your screen, you send the PDF, like you download as a PDF again. You do like Control S, like, or you save it and you send it to them, and make them share their screen and let them sign so everyone sees, right? Keep the will digitally stored safely and send the executor a copy of it, or inform them how to get one when they need to. So this is if you want a digital signature. With signature, kind of like similar, you print it, you bring the witnesses in the same room and sign it, initialize it every page while they're seeing, make them sign, initialize every page of the printed will too, store the physical copy somewhere safe, and tell the witnesses and the executor where it is. Also tell family members or people they trust. If you want to do it with the notary public, you do the same thing as here with the wet signature, but you do that in front of a notary. So you go to a notary office, you bring your witness, and do the whole process there. At the end, the witness will, like the notary public, will also sign. Here's some FAQ: who can be a witness? Why don't I have to enter any of my family members in the will? When should I not use your service? And this is something important we need to discuss. Has this been approved by a lawyer? The answer is yes. Is a copy of the will valid in BC? We always prefer to have original better than the copy. A copy can work, but original is better. Can a will or power of attorney be signed electronically in BC? Yes. When do I have to update my will? As we said, like if the secondary and primary of the guardian and or the executor happen to be unavailable, both at the same time. What should I share with the executor? The location, the family context, where to find things. How do I change my will if I have an existing one? Just go to the website. And much more, many questions you can read in your time. And then if you go to the will itself, I'll go through it very quickly. You can see here, it puts my name, my street, and then you can see here, is put Jazreen as the executor and his address. You can see here deleted. It doesn't mention anything about backup executor because you just decided to have one, or I decided to have one. And then here, same thing. Jazreen is also the executor here, and Muhammad Shahad is the guardian. There's nothing mentioning about the backup because I did not put any. And here, Islamic Relief Organization. This is what they will use it for, and this is the percentage. And here's my my uncle, and this is kind of like the individual can use the money as he or she fits, because basically you give them as a gift, so you don't really control what they do with the money. Otherwise, it's not theirs. And this is a percentage. And that's about it, really. I'm not sure if anyone has questions or anything. We can.
Hey, there are a few questions.
Yeah.
Before that, I also want to encourage all of the participants to go to the website and try it out. I think it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and you don't need to worry about putting real names, but just to try the website, and if you have any questions, Muhammad can answer them. Can I go to a few questions in the chat box, Muhammad?
Yeah, please.
Cool. There was a question about if this bill is applicable to all kind of residents, like PR, work residents, and students. So I answered on the chat that it is applicable to all of the residents of Canada. I think that's
regardless of the status. Yes, correct. Anytime you have something in Canada, any money, any bank's account, all of that, they will respect that well.
Yeah, makes sense. Ma'ashuk has this question: how does this apply if the Canadian citizen is residing in a foreign country?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. So are you saying if you're residing in a foreign country, is it still good to have such a will? It will definitely make it much easier to recognize in Canada, right? 100%, hands down. Now, if you do not have it, can you claim because, for example, you died in Egypt or in India or whatever, that the Sharia law should be applicable? I do not know. So it's definitely better to have it. It's definitely applicable in anything you own inside Canada.
Yeah, I think I basically said the recommendation is to have this will in Canada because it's very easy to create one.
Yeah.
But then also create a will in the EU, wherever the foreign
100%. Yeah, that you're living. It
Cool.
depends on where you are, right? Like if, for example, you live in a Muslim country, having a will depends highly on what you want. If you don't want to give any charity or something, it's not as dangerous of not having a will in Canada. Not having a will in Canada can have major consequences.
Yeah, makes sense. Nirshid asks, is it legally valid if the executor is also signing as the witness?
That is actually a good question, and this is one of the things we answered here.
Difficult, I think.
Witness.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
as long as he's not going to receive anything from the will, like if you put your spouse as the executor, then she cannot be the witness. The witness cannot. Oh, actually, they say your spouse can be a witness in BC. Interesting. So with the exclusion of your spouse, anyone who is going to be a beneficiary. Wait a second. Anyone 18 or older, as long as they are not. Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, as expected. They are not. So your spouse cannot be a witness. Anyone who's going to benefit from the will cannot be a witness.
Yeah.
So anyone you wrote in the will, anyone who's going to inherit in the will based on the schedule, as in like your kid, all of that, they cannot be witnesses.
I think the question is specifically if the executor can be a witness.
If the executor is none of the above, then yes.
Okay, so the executor and
if you put your kid as the executor, then no. If the executor is your friend and you did not write them, name them in the will to take something, then yes. Like consider the executor as a normal person.
Let me correct myself there. Okay. Nishil, feel free to ask follow-up questions if you have. Otherwise, Anas has a question. Can I use DocuSign to sign the documents, or does this need to be signed on video with both witnesses witnessing signing the document?
Yes, both witnesses has to see you sign the document. As far as I understand, reading the details of the law in BC, DocuSign is not good enough because they cannot see you. Unless you sign it in DocuSign while sharing your screen, then we can, yeah, this could work because it's just like a PDF, really, editing.
Got it. Harry asks, how and where do you store the will?
So if it's digital, then you store it online, or
sorry, continue.
You store it online or something, or in your desktop. If it is physical copy, you store it somewhere where it can be reachable. So if you have, for example, a bank box, you can store it there. There are some lawyers who store it there for a fee. You can store it in your house. As long as the executor has access to it and can actually get it to start the process, it should be fine.
Abila asks, is this will applicable to all? Oh, I think we already answered that. Sorry. Oh, I think Shesi has a follow-up. Most of the time, individuals keep financial matters confidential and do not wish to share the info with third parties or friends or relatives. In this, how do we deal with the situation? What is the criteria to select a reliable executor? After this will is created, it should be shared with the selected executor who will be in knowledge of your assets and liabilities.
So yes and no, right? Like they don't need to know before they need to know the details. So you should tell them that you have assets in places per se, right? So you can, for example, tell them if you deal with a real estate agency, right? Or you have a real estate that gets you like rental income and you have a company, right? You just have a list of those individuals or those countries or those entities or companies, sorry, that the executor should contact to get grasp of your estate. But before you die, they just know the names. You know what I mean? So they just know that you have an account in Questrade, but how much do you have there? They do not know, and they cannot know unless you die. Then they actually provide the deed, like they have to provide your death certificate and they have to provide the will saying, okay, I'm the executor, that's why she should give me information. It's a little bit of a process. It's not like I'm gonna call Questrade and they're gonna tell me everything.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question, Shasi. Yeah, that's all the questions we have on the chat box. But if anyone else has a question.
Let me answer the question that I said I will answer. When should you not use the service? Now let me actually get it from here. When you should not use your... Okay, here. 1. And if your family situation in Canada is complicated, it's better to do it through a lawyer. And by complicated, I mean it will be challenged in court. So for example, if you have a daughter who do not believe that it's okay for her to get half of what her brother will get, which will mean that she will challenge your will in the court. A will like this is much easier to challenge than a will written by a lawyer for that specific case, because what the lawyer will do is they will tell you, okay, here's what you want to do, 1, 2, 3. Why do you want to do that? And then they will write the will in a way that makes it reasonable why you decided, in a language that the Canadian understand or Canadian system understand, why you decided to give the boy more than the girl. However, that being said, sometimes even when lawyers write it, the will can be challenged, unfortunately, right? So even if you write a will with a lawyer, everything is good. Someone who is relative to you who did not get inheritance, or he or she feels it's not fair, they can actually challenge the will, and the court can change your decision. Your decision is not the ultimatum here. So this is just a FYI. But yeah, this is one thing. The other thing is, if you want to add extra wishes, and you want to have it in the will itself, right? We currently do not support that. Some people like, for example, say they want to write in my will that they want to be buried somewhere specific or things like that. We do not want to have this at this point. So if this is very important to you, you can do it this way. Otherwise, you can write it in a different paper and tell the executor about your wishes without including it in the will itself. I think these are the two reasons. That we came up with. And in general, if you currently do not have a will, just have a will, right? Like write it using the website, even if your case is 1 or 2, just write it first. And then later, once you get around it, once you have a lawyer, once you kind of like write your own thing, it's fine. You can revoke all the previous will versions, right? There's no harm in writing this will. It takes you literally 5 minutes to write, and then maybe 15 minutes to get the witnesses' signatures and everything if done online.
Makes sense.
I think someone is raising their hands.
Nishit, go ahead.
Yeah, is there an option to edit the articles? The reason, like, you guys have done a wonderful job to make things much easier for everyone to create the will. It only takes few minutes to create the will now with this your application. That's amazing. Jazakumullah khair. Because when I created my will 3 years ago, I had to pay $700 to the lawyer. So it's definitely a game changer. But just following up my questions earlier, if somebody doesn't want to put all this condition and want to have something else, so is there an option to edit your articles?
Currently not, but that's actually a good idea. So what you're suggesting is we give you in a format other than PDF so you can edit it and remove whatever you want, kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We were just worried if we did it this way, people might do something that might make it invalid or make it un-Islamic or anything like that. But we can definitely study this use case, inshallah.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair.
Oh yeah.
Cool. I think we're right on time. Oh, I think there's a question. Give me 1 sec. Let me get to the chat window. And Anas asks, usually the executor can be compensated for the time to settle the estate. So is it okay to put that into the will?
So are you saying that you should put in the will how much the executor should take?
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so I think the question is, the executor could be, compensated for the time to settle.
Correct.
All of
Correct.
these.
They can take it from the will, yeah.
Then so I think Anas' specific question is, it's okay to put that in the will. So how do we put that in the will?
It's not needed to be put in the will. It's just a general thing, like it's considered as a debt per se. Like it's considered, it is here. Let me show you. So it's considered in this section. Yeah. All my legal debts, including such as expenses incurred by last illness and earlier, blah, 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 blah. So it's just in general, anything because of my death should be taken out before any distribution.
Makes sense. Okay. We'll give it another minute. And if there are no more questions, we can wind down. Is there anything else you want to cover, Mohammed?
No, nothing else. But the last one about the executor, I think we can definitely add maybe one third article here to make it more clear, inshallah. I'll check that.
Inshallah. Sister Nadia, she asks, what about the kids' custody? I think we covered that in the.
Yeah, that's the guardian. But are you talking about if it's already like you have a custody over your kid but not your spouse kind of thing already, or?
I'm not sure what the exact question is, but I think
Okay.
the question is
But
about,
if in general, then the guardian. This is the guardian, basically.
yeah, in general, I think if both the spouses die, how does the kids work? So then
Yeah, it goes to the guardian. But by the way, like just FYI, the guardian does not mean the guardian will have the kids forever. The guardian is the person who's gonna have the kids until the court decides where the kids will go.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
If it is challenged in court, that is right. Yeah, so Sister Nadia, to answer your question, if both the parents are dead, you can in the application you can actually specify the guardian, and the kids will be managed by the guardian. And another question that I keep hearing is, can we actually specify a guardian who's not in the country, not in Canada, for example?
Highly not recommended, because again, the point of the guardian is because the Canadian system works as following: when the parents die, if there is no guardian, the government will take the kids, put them in a shelter until the government decides who's going to be the guardian, who's going to take the kids over. We want to avoid that. We want to avoid the time in the shelter, and that's why you write the name of a guardian, someone in the city who can take the kids, to kind of like make them live with them until the government, like the court decides. Now, you can tell the guardian that you want your kids to go overseas and live with your parents, or like anyone like that, and they can just do that for you.
Got it.
Yeah. And remember, even if you write it in the will, it does not mean the government will listen to you.
Yeah.
Right. So even if you say, I want my parents to take my kids, that is not guaranteed that that's what the government will do after the time we discussed, right? There's a time before the court. This is, yeah, for sure. It will be listen to you, what you want in the guardian, but after that, it depends on what the court decides. Usually, though, they respect the parents' wishes.
Yeah, got it. A follow-up to that, and then I'll go to Riyaz's question. A follow-up to that is, I think Anas asks, maybe she meant to compensate the guardian. Is there
the guardian compensation? But this is going to be very expensive. Like, are you going to compensate them for like a month and a half or 2 months of taking care of your kids?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, a compensation of guardians, I think the answer to the question is compensation of guardians are not, sorry, I got a different call. Sorry. I think compensation of guardians is not covered in this will, right?
Yeah.
I think that's not recommended either, but yeah.
However, just one thing. So the kids have inheritance, and the executor will have the control over the monetary, so that they can give the guardian as much as they need for the kids until the kids are 18.
Right.
So that's why it's better to have different people as guardian and executor, just so that you have like different people deciding rather than just one. But you can definitely make the guardian the same as the executor as well.
Makes sense. Okay, Brother Riaz, he has a question. Is it legally valid for an individual to have more than one will? I mean, if I would like to use the will from this website and then make another will that only has non-financial matters in it, such as advice to family, where I should be buried, etc.
Yeah, but remember, the other one is not really a will per se, so you can just write it as wishes, not will. But no, you cannot have two wills. You should only have one will, because otherwise it will be easier to challenge. They can say this will and contradicts this will in whatever way, right? So it's better to have one will only, and that's why most wills at the very beginning of them, they say every single will before that date is void, as one of the things that you're saying in your new will. But if you want to have wishes or something that's not legal, you can just write it as kind of like an attachment to the will, if you wish.
Makes sense. Cool. Okay, I think that's Riaz. I think that's everyone. I think that's everything. Again, feel free to ask any questions or comments that you have. Feel free to reach out to me or Zakir in the group, and then we can if you don't know the answer, we can check with Muhammad and get back to you. If that's all, I would like to give a very for everyone. I would like to give a very quick, short 2-second intro to KIBC, because a few of are joining us from outside the province. For those of you who don't know, Kerala Islamic Association of British Columbia, KIBC, is it's a key organization supporting the Kerala Muslim community in British Columbia. KIBC is committed to helping members maintain Islamic knowledge and traditions and providing essential support to the community. So whether you're new to BC or have been here for a while, KIBC is a valuable resource. Feel free to reach out to us for any help or for any anything that you may feel like you want to reach out. So we encourage everyone to reach out and connect us with this community. With that, Jazakumullahu khairan. I'm going to end the meeting now.
جزاكم الله خير.
جزاكم الله خير.
نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.
Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.